has gained over 650,000 followers on TikTok by only using my phone and without ever dancing? If yes,
Come closer. They're just uncomfortably close. Wake up a bit. Also, my wife said I can't record in the bedroom.
hey everyone, same guy, different location. I am Dr. Markus. I'm an associate professor at the Shenzhen Technology University in China, and I'm the author of various books on short video and short video selling, particularly on the TikTok platform. In this webinar, I'll be sharing my learnings, tips and tricks on how to tackle the TikTok platform and a bulletproof way to start your short video journey. So mark your calendars, Saturday, 9th September for the IMC 360 International Webinar. See you there.
All right, welcome back to participants from our previous free webinar and welcome to our new participants. My name is Yoganeswari Velusamy and I am a postgraduate student from the School of Communication, USM. I hope you're refreshed and ready for our most awaited session. So let us begin this workshop session by introducing the trainer of our digital strategy workshop, focusing on TikTok. Dr. Markus is an associate professor and head of marketing programs at Shenzhen Technology University in China. He has published various books on TikTok, with 2 receiving bestseller awards on Amazon in 2020 and 2021. Well done, Doctor. As an active social media user, Dr. Markus is the only academic with over 650,000 followers on TikTok. Now, before we begin, participants are free to ask any questions you have regarding this topic by simply adding a comment in our chat box. We will answer them at the end of the session. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Markus Rach for the webinar workshop.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And hey, everyone. I'm very, very excited to be here. And I'm very humbled to be able to share my learnings and my insights into the platform, into the world of short video, and particularly into the world of TikTok marketing. So let me share my screen again with you and move into that presentation. I hope everybody can see my screen and it's working great for you guys. Perfect. So the session's name for today, or the session's title, was set as TikTok for Marcomm Success. And of course, that's a very interesting title, speaking about one of the platforms that have garnered the attention of the world for the last 3 years, right? TikTok has had a much longer history, and we get to this. But I think for the last 3 years, or at least for the last 2 years, it kept us pretty much on our toes. It dominated many, many marketing headlines, and it has raised many questions as well. Probably for the last half year, attention moved a bit to AI, but we'll stay with TikTok, and maybe we'll have time to discuss a bit the AI impact on the TikTok platform and where we believe TikTok might be heading in the future, maybe even using AI and what that could mean for you or for your organization, to promote your products or to reach a target group. Well, let me continue. I already had a very nice introduction. It's hard to beat, but this is me again. My name is Markus. I call myself an experimental academic. What does that mean? That means I try to not just talk about things, not just do theoretical research and work, but I try to apply them and see what happens. I, put my sleeves up and actually get into the work myself. Sometimes that's quite fun. Some would call this pseudo-academics, but to me, it's great fun and it provides me lots of learnings. I'm also a board member in various organizations. So I'm an active board member currently in 4 organizations in China, in Switzerland, Australia. And I run a brand and marketing consultancy on the side where I help clients tackle actually no operational marketing issues. So I don't deal with TikTok as a consultant. I let other people do that. They're probably much better with it. I deal more with strategic issues. If somebody wants to connect with me, the QR code gets you straight to my LinkedIn, where share sometimes, some of my learnings or fun stories and stuff that happens currently in my life in China. As it has been said before, I do currently reside in China, in Shenzhen. We had a horrible rainstorm the last 2 days, and I hope my internet connection stays afloat, that we have a good audio and video connection. So please, internet gods, stay with us. I think that's all that we need to know for the time being, probably about myself. I also have 2 kids, by the way, but they're out, so there's a very slim chance that you hear my 2 kids yelling in the background, so that should be fine, hopefully. Then let's get into how I got to talk about TikTok in the first place. What made me thank you guys. I love the comments. I see them pop up. It's quite lovely. Thanks for the for the best wishes for the internet gods. I think currently they're hearing us. So what made me get into the subject of TikTok? It all started actually at the end of 2019 when I came to China for a guest lecture role. And having had no access to any other social media but TikTok, I started to watch a lot of TikToks for entertainment purposes. And that got me to wonder how the platform works, how I get to see content that I am seeing, and moreover, why I watch for hours and hours at a time. That got me to think quite a bit. Why would I sit as a grown man, as a father of 2 kids, in an apartment in Shenzhen and watching hours of TikTok? That can't be normal, right? So getting back from or coming back from China, I worked with a client, and to challenge the client's marketing department, I actually said, "Hey, as you know, there's a new player in town who you or I will have to first upload with 1 million views. A professional marketing department with 15 people, or me as a single person." So they accepted my bet, which wasn't really well thought through, to be quite honest. And that forced me to come up with an idea to do something on TikTok because I didn't want to lose my own bet. And driving home from that client, I sat in my car and I thought, Jesus Christ, now I actually have to do something rather than just talk. So I grabbed my phone, I opened the TikTok app, and I filmed my car's dashboard. It happened to be a Tesla, so I just filmed the dashboard and I uploaded the video to TikTok. Truth be told, there was no strategy behind it. There was no planning behind it. There was actually nothing behind it but me being in the car, uploading a video of my dashboard to test TikTok's upload function. That's all I did. And that video had 17,000 views in like 24 hours. And today, 17,000 views seems like nothing, right? For all of you involved involved in social media, 17,000 views is a minuscule number today. My LinkedIn post yesterday had like 30 or 40,000 posts, and it was nonsensical, if you want. But at the time in 2020, 17,000 views was the second highest post I've ever had as a private person on social media. And I was like, wow, only the upload of a dashboard, which didn't make any sense. So I spent a bit of time with the platform, and I used the channel that I've created to test various things on the platform. So I became fairly scientific about it, which nobody knew who consumed my videos, that it wasn't chance that I used the sound, it wasn't chance that I had different lengths, it wasn't chance that I didn't show my face, I think, for 1.5 years. None of this was chance. I did all of this on purpose to understand how content, how interactions, engagements would perform. And this is how my experiment, this is what I called it, grew at the height to roughly 700,000 people. And since I'm in China, I can't access it anymore due to firewall issues. We get to this later, but many of you probably already know, TikTok, belonging to the organization ByteDance, has 2 arms. One in China with a well-curated content form, and one outside of China, which is pretty much open and also the main focus of today. But it comes with some tricks and K-feeds that we have to discuss. So anyhow, this led me to run this account and pretty much have fun with it. I have to admit, it was a hell of a fun to do these videos. I spent on average about 10 to 15 minutes a day doing my content. More time I just couldn't have, right? So within that time frame, I had to come up with an idea to keep people more or less interested and see what happens with my uploads. During that time, I had 7 bans on the platform, which also gives me the title as the baddest academic on the planet, which is a pretty cool thing to have, because I think no other academic has ever been banned 7 times on a single platform. And by the way, none of these bans ever happened for me breaking any rules, because I knew the rules. I wrote about the rules. Most of these bans happened because I had a critical practitioner's piece in some journal where I disclosed there might be pros and cons to the platform, and usually within 24 hours of such a piece, my account got a ban that at some point got lifted again. So must have been a coincidence, right? I can't prove it on a data perspective, but it felt odd. The most important thing for my presentation today, I do come in peace. I wish nobody any harm. I don't wish any harm to the platform. I'm actually a fairly nice guy, but I get very excited when I talk about the topics that I enjoy dealing with, that I enjoy researching. So please excuse me if I get overly excited, and every now and then there might be a little bad language slipping in. Usually my wife's there and she claps me at the back of my neck, but she's out with the kids to make sure we have peace and quietness. So again, please forgive me. I try my very best to behave like an adult. Moving forward, the plan of attack for today, building a bit into the theme or trying to, thank you, moving into the theme of TikTok for Marcomm success, I thought, well, let's look at the success factor, TikTok and short video. I think it's quite important that we distinguish between TikTok and short video, and we look at short video as a phenomena on a holistic perspective, because right now we can't look anymore at an exclusive platform as I did in 2020. The world has changed tremendously, and I'm pretty sure I'll show you one bit of change that you might not have come across with. At least I hope so. If you've heard about it, just act as if I brought something very new to the table that would make me super happy. Then we move into planning for success, which means we look at short video and creating a short video strategy. We might have to discuss the term strategy, of course, because as you know, a strategy can't be an operational aspect, right? A strategy has to be part of a wider range of things, has to play into certain objectives, has to have a starting point and a goal. And the line in between is more or less where we're moving to, that we then operationally support. Now, with short video, we often fall into fallacies of vanity metrics, hype, as we do again right now with AI. And I think that's some of the points that we have to discuss in that section. And then we get into the part managing success. How do we run short video operations? There I'll share some of the insights that I have personally gained within the very, very limited resource set that was available to me. And I'll share some of the insights that I have gained with organizations in both Europe and now in China using short video for employer branding purposes, using short video for sales and or marketing purposes. And at the end, we have time for some Q&A, and I really look forward to hearing your questions, and hopefully I have the knowledge and experience to answer them. But if there's nothing else at this point, I'll move on into, of course, the star of the show, which is TikTok, an app that shouldn't be a surprise anymore to anybody in this webinar, and an app that truly can't be a surprise anymore to anybody on planet Earth. It was fascinating to me, however, with the birth of TikTok way before the 2020s, how many marketers have never heard about the TikTok platform in the early 2020s. And then, as you know, we had the pandemic hit us. We were locked in our rooms and apartments and houses, and we had ample of time to spend online. And that supported, of course, the insane boost that the TikTok platform had, which I'm sure you've already talked about in other sessions or heard about. But nevertheless, I think it's very interesting to have a quick recap of sort of like the most important milestones or timeline stones of TikTok to really appreciate what the platform has become. It all started somewhere in 2016 when TikTok launched in China as Douyin. Douyin is still a platform that's active in China. I mentioned before, belonging to ByteDance as the head organization. We have Douyin in China, and we have TikTok in the Western world or outside of China as a separate entity. That is quite important because it both belongs to the same organization, but it's being kept separate, as you probably can imagine, for media regulation purposes in China. But there's more to it if you look at the development of the platform, right? One thing I can already share with you, if you have the means and the chance to get a Douyin account, which will most likely require you to have a Chinese phone number, which is not too hard to get. You go online, you buy a prepaid card, and just keep it alive. Use access to Douyin to see where TikTok is likely going to head to. Why? Because most of the developments we see coming into TikTok, they have happened in Douyin about 6 months to almost a year earlier, right? That's a great learning. It's a great way to prepare yourself for what might come to the TikTok platform. And if you currently look at what happens in Douyin, we see a tremendous move, of course, into live selling, which is the hot operational marketing item in China. But we also see sort of like a move into artificial humans being used more, into algorithmic commerce aspects. So quite a lot of use of technology to tailorize consumer to brand interactions, right? So it's already learning. If you look at the timeline of the year on TikTok, that still holds true from 2016 to today. So anyhow, moving on, 2017, TikTok launched the global market, and I'm pretty sure most people, including myself in 2017, didn't care and didn't know much about the platform until it acquired Musically, someone later in 2017, and integrated the Musically platform into TikTok, 18, 19-ish, and that really pushed TikTok into the app charts and into the limelight, particularly of younger generations that became very short video savvy. And we'll see in a second, by the way, that this might have not been TikTok's fault, right? There was not a player that really messed up badly. We can learn, sometimes we can learn greatly from the history and from failures that others made. So hopefully we don't make them ourselves. Then, as we said before, moving into the 2020s, TikTok has really gained stardom and I believe was heavily, heavily pushed by the extra time we had being, as you know, bored in our houses and apartments. There's been a great song in 2020, Bored in the House. Some of you might know it. And we used the time to entertain ourselves. And TikTok was an immensely great platform to do just that. It entertained us and it provided content that seemed to never stop and it seemed to never get boring, right? And that was TikTok's main reason for success at the time. It had an algorithm that wasn't looking at your network, at your friends, and what your connections liked and didn't like, what your neighbor bought, or where you went to a restaurant. It only looked at your behavior, right? That was the beginning of what we could call pure algorithmic user focus that has been brought to a scale that we've never seen before. However, for those of you who know Netflix or have Netflix accounts, if it's available in your countries, you might find similarities and say, but wait a minute, has Netflix done the same thing as TikTok? And of course, we would agree that yes, Netflix has done the exact same thing as TikTok, but TikTok has had one big advantage over Netflix that just broke all records. And that big advantage, you might have already guessed it, is the duration of the content you consume. If you go on Netflix and you watch, what was that show that everybody talked about? Squid Game, right? That Korean show that the entire world was crazy about, or some of the others that every now and then pop up. You consume 20 to 40 minutes at a time, and you purposely go and consume the content. And then you're gone, which means at the time of access, the usage time you have with the platform, you can only collect a few algorithmic moments. Whereas if you go on TikTok and assume you spend the 20 to 40 minutes you would watch a show on the TikTok platform, how many algorithmic moments do you create in the same time frame? Hundreds, if not thousands. So the platform can easily, well, not easily, but with the modern technology play, learn your behavior. And as you know, your behavior is a great determinant of your black box, which is hard to decode. All right. So the platform has been growing ever since. As we know, it came with some ups and downs. There's political issues on the horizon, which is something depending on the part of the world where you are, that should at least be part of your risk mitigation plan when you think about the TikTok platform. What if you invest in the platform and the platform might get banned in your country? Maybe gets banned in the country and market too, right? This should be definitely part of your risk management plan. I think as we currently see we call it dispute, and dispute between some Western parts and China, particularly growing. I think that's a risk and a danger we have to be aware of, and at least keep at the back of our minds. I don't want to blame TikTok for it. I don't want to blame anybody else for it, but it's a fact that we have to live with. If you look at what TikTok has become now, a platform with 1.7 billion users and about 1.1, 1.2 monthly active users as of the latest reporting. Numbers probably vary. Why? Because there's only one holding the true numbers, and that's TikTok, and they're usually not very eager to share internal numbers unless there's a great event and there's something to boost about. One thing I found during my time, when we look at reported numbers about the TikTok demographic, it's usually skewed to 13, or depending where you are, even a higher age group upwards. And that has to do with advertising laws. In certain countries, it's not allowed to advertise to minors or to certain age groups. So they're excluded from some of the reportings, and that quite dilutes the figures. I learned this with my own account. I did a few surveys where I asked the demographic following me or watching my stuff to disclose a couple of things about themselves, obviously anonymously. And the age dilution I found was heavily skewed to younger age groups, as I actually expected, to be quite honest, from the comments and from some behavior that I could observe, right? But nevertheless, if a platform has more than 1 billion users, there's something that comes with it, particularly in the social media world, and I'm pretty sure you've all been exposed to it. No brand can afford to miss out not being on platform, correct? That's something that happens every now and then. We see it on LinkedIn pretty much every day. Somebody saying, "Oh, you're on TikTok. Is your brand on TikTok? Why are you not on TikTok?" Blah blah blah. The big question for us, and I tried to express this with the emojis that I used here. Is it just something attracting the masses, or is it worth being attracted to? And I think that's something, at least from a marketing perspective, you would have to differentiate. As private users, it's a completely different topic. It's your personal entertainment. It's all about what makes you happy, what you do, what you enjoy in your free time. But as organizations using our resources, we can't follow the hype. No matter if a platform has 1 billion users or 2 billion users, it's all about, is it our target group or a target group we want to get to? And another learning we can, I think, already apply here, target group doesn't necessarily have to be customers. Maybe it's employees, right? I've worked with many industrials actually, and it's very unlikely they're going to sell their products over TikTok. If you work in industrial oil and gas applications and you produce a sealing ring that gets used in high process gas or high process oil equipment, you're not going to sell one of these rings on TikTok. It's not going to happen. Let's just be honest about it, right? It's not going to happen. But you will need new engineers to join the organization. You need new blood coming in the organization. Maybe TikTok is a great way to show the next generation or a certain generation that it'd be nice to work in the organization. There's a certain character there. You have a certain culture that's inspirational to be in. There's great career chances, whatever it'll be, right? Maybe that's a great way to use the platform, although it's not directly to support sales. I think that's something we have to differentiate today. And I also try to apply, and probably noticed this already, I'm not trying to sell TikTok or short video. I'm trying to use or apply a very critical perspective that makes us weigh why we do certain things. And for some of us, it might be, yes, it supports our sales and marketing objectives. And for others, it might be, no, it's not going to do that, but it might support other objectives, for example, like employer branding. But moving on, I have a fun story to share. You've probably you probably recognize this lovely gentleman here on the picture, Jack Dorsey, the founder and former CEO of Twitter, who just sold to Elon Musk, as we all know, big debacle. It's now called X. Great discussion on branding. And Jack Dorsey has been called the 2 times world's worst CEO. Now you probably think, why does he tell us now a story about the guy who owned Twitter that we don't call Twitter anymore, but X, and who's probably doing yoga in some exotic country with all the millions he got from Elon Musk? That's a good question, right? But the solution or the answer to the question is, we spoke before about TikTok wasn't the first player in the short video market. Actually, that guy had the key to short video in his hand. He had an app called Vine. Maybe some of you remember the Vine app. I unfortunately didn't copy the logo in, but it doesn't have an amazing recall. Those who know it, they would know it by name. Vine was an app that came to be in 2013, was bought by, many of you actually remember Vine, interesting. It's so cool for me to do this, by the way, because if I speak about that stuff in China, as you can imagine, due to media regulation and censorship issues, it's sometimes hard to get a reaction from the audience. So it's really cool for me to see that so many of you say, yeah, no, Vine. The Vine launched in 2013, was taken over by Twitter, and grew into a 200 million monthly active user base. Insane, if you think about it, insane. It was the first true short video platform, as some of you already said, mainly lip syncing, doing, Dubsmash as well, yes, doing stupid, funny little pranks, that sort of stuff. And why did it grow so tremendously? Well, because technology changed the field, right? The access to the smartphone and everybody having a camera made everybody creator overnight, and Vine captured upon this tremendously, engaging a young audience that could all of a sudden have like stupid little short video pranks, quick lip syncs, upload, be done, happy world, 200 million users. And for those of you who are still following the social media hype, the Paul brothers, Logan and Jack Paul, they come from Vine. That's where they gained their first attention. And Jack Dorsey thought there's no future for short video. So when Instagram actually had the first option to upload videos to the Instagram platform, of course he felt pressure and a little, competition rising up, and he decided to shut Vine down, not even sell it, shut it down. And that was in 2017. So you see something happening here, huh? Yen 2016, Dorsey shutting Vine down 2017, TikTok buying Musical.ly in 2017 with 100 million users. So where should the 200 million users of Vine go? Right? They were looking for an alternative. Musical.ly was gone as part of TikTok. So automatically, you could almost say, if you look at the development of user charts, add 200 million from one day to the other, courtesy of the worst CEO 2 times awarded by a panel, Jack Dorsey. I think that's just one of these lessons that we all hope, if we ever are in a position to found a company and have a success story, as Twitter to some extent, of course, had, that we're not going to get the title of the worst CEO by saying, short video or maybe generative AI or whatever comes after it is a flux, and we're not even selling what we have, but we're just shutting it down. And there's a lesson to be learned from both his failure, which we're not taking any further, but from the growth of short video and how it emerged in 17 to 20. And that is, don't be too proud to copy. That's a phrase that was made popular by Facebook, actually. Apparently, Mark Zuckerberg said this within the Facebook group. It's one of these rumors at least floating around. I probably think he did. Maybe he didn't. Let's just assume he would have said that. And what does it mean, don't be too proud to copy, right? That's something we stereotypically say about the Chinese. And being a professor in China, the stereotype sometimes holds true for good reasons. Sometimes it holds true for bad reasons. But the table has turned tremendously, right? What TikTok brought to the table in 2017, no other short video platform, no other social media platform could truly compete with. Why? Because they have focused on our social network, on the social graph, right? With the idea that word of mouth translates into our social behavior, stimulates our liking as word of mouth does, right? Which is true, which has been empirically proven. But it doesn't mean because my neighbor friend likes cats that I like cats. It doesn't mean because of my neighbor goes and have chicken tikka masala tonight that I don't want to have a pizza, right? There's still a behavioral component that is very subjective. So the social media world struggled to find a solution to younger demographics abandoning them and going to the cool new kid on the block, which of course was TikTok. And as we've seen, and that's why I said, we can't today anymore talk only about TikTok. We have to talk about short video or 916 moving picture or whatever you want to call it. But now we have 3 players that have a spot in the short video marketing universe. And of course, these are Reels, these are Shorts, and these are TikTok. And if you compare them, they have grown very, very similar in appearance, in functionality. And if every now and then, if you take some brand assets away and you show it to people, some do have a problem distinguishing them. That's why I said don't be too proud to copy. It took them some time to realize, but I think both Reels and Shorts did a good job to initially copy TikTok, which I think we have to call it what they did. They copied TikTok in a panic move, in a panic mode, but then they found, wait a minute, we actually have assets of our own. We don't have to copy every move that TikTok did. Once they got the algorithm under control, once they created a platform that actually also served the users interesting behavioral related content, they realized, well, we can actually leverage the other assets that we have. And I think they have done so in a tremendous way. And it's worth for us to look a bit into how they have done it. And to me, at least, when we look at short video as a media format, as a platform that we can leverage for our operational marketing efforts, that we can leverage in communication, we can now distinguish a bit between these 3 platforms and what that might mean for us to use them in our marketing or communications planning mix. So if you look at the battle of the shorts, what do we see? All have a tremendous user base, of course. No doubt about this, right? We already said TikTok, roughly 1.1 billion monthly average users. A number we have to be careful about because, as we said before, we've established this, any change in foreign legislation could take millions of users away from the TikTok platform. You might recall the ban of TikTok in India, which in 2018 to 19 or to almost 2020, India was the strongest demographic on the TikTok platform. Boom, gone, right? So change in legislation for whatever reason, we're not getting into the reasons, could attack this number quite creatively. But if you look at Instagram and YouTube, we see something very interesting. These are, of course, not the monthly active users of Reels and Shorts per se, but these are the monthly active users that have access to Shorts and Reels by having a YouTube and or Reels account. And what both players struggled with initially, Reels more, Instagram more than YouTube, was to acknowledge that we have an insanely large user base that we can partially convert into shorts or provide new value aspects to that user base with shorts or short videos, right? And that's very interesting if you look at this very briefly, at least. Then we get into some of the differences according to a fairly new survey that I'll share with you in a second. If you look at what the essence is of most of these platforms, what drives them? On TikTok, to the most part, it's impressions and engagement, right? Reaching large numbers of people, having like these viral moments, which creates hype, adrenaline, right? It's a stimulant that we have to be careful of as organizations, different thing as private creators. And we look for engagement, right? Likes, comments, shares, something the TikTok platform has been known for. And I can share from my perspective, every video I had, which exceeded 1 million views, 1 million impressions, it's an absolute hype you're getting. You're sitting at home and you uploaded a video that took you a few minutes to create, and you see your phone is literally heating up with notifications. I had to turn the notifications off because a video exceeding 10 million views actually did heat up my iPhone with notifications. It was really, really odd, but it gives you a lot of pleasure. And of course, you're like, wow, let's create another viral video, and you strive to do this. And that creates a conundrum that as a private person is okay to have, but as an organization is very, very dangerous. And we get to this later again, but I want to mention this quickly. The conundrum that comes up is to say, how do I create another video that gets 10 million plus views? How do I create one that gets 20 million views? And you strive to get these views. It becomes a race for numbers. And you become quite obsessed with it. I did become obsessed with it. And I got angry when I didn't reach it. And keep in mind, I followed a plan that I scientifically laid out with things I researched. So I had objectives I followed. Yet I became obsessed about racing after these numbers. And I had to look at my plan to hold myself back and say, hey, wait a minute. Just because people react on something stupid I do doesn't mean I have to do it again to get more views. It's not serving my purpose anymore. Something organizations have to look for and be careful with. So impressions and engagement is certainly something we look for on the TikTok platform. It's not a very follower-centric platform. Why do I say that? Because followers on TikTok doesn't mean much to the engagement and impression you're getting with new uploads. If you create a new upload, it's again algorithmically tested through different batches, and only if these batches successfully react to it or positively react to it, it will get to a wider audience. And that would include, of course, your followers. But chances that your followers necessarily actively follow your account, kind of like a storytelling mode, are slim to none on TikTok. Why? Because it's a platform that doesn't require much cognitive effort. You don't go there to follow a series of events. You go there for quick, easy, simple, low cognitive effort entertainment. And it's great for that. It's absolutely superb for that. So we have to keep in mind, it's not a platform where we build a following and have a storytelling that people follow your life like a vlog. It's quick engagement, quick impressions, playing with the algorithm, reaching audiences. And that brings us to YouTube and Instagram. If you look at Instagram, so I jumped to the top, almost 2.4 billion users on the platform, which is huge, part of the meta universe. We see that Instagram is all about getting followers, right? Accounts grow, and you tend to have the accounts you follow in your Instagram feed. So you follow their posts, you follow their news. So it's a completely different user behavior that we find on Instagram that can be ported to Reels as part of an account's media format or media structure, right? Which means if you have a Reels account, I've also tested it, tested this. I just didn't write that much about it because Reels doesn't get so much interest in either part of the practitioners or academic world. You'll find that a nice media mix actually levels up your account for your followers by still pictures and moving pictures, and therefore being able to create sort of like a slight storyline for the accounts you have, right? I'm not talking about KOLs and leveraging a pure transactional format. I'm talking about building up an account, most likely with the idea of an organization. Now we get to the platform, YouTube. YouTube has been neglected for a long time and been called, it's dying now, it's old boring stuff, too long content, nobody's going to watch it anymore, everything is about short and sexy. Yet here we are in 2023, YouTube is still around, and YouTube has finally found a way to leverage short video so that creators on the platform do not have to fight the conundrum of both the TikTok and Instagram world. And what does that mean? As you know, there's two media formats on the YouTube platform. There's long format videos. You might have a creator you follow. Full disclosure, I follow a guy that builds fish tanks. You know, for your aquarium hobby at home. He builds fish tanks. It's the only thing he does. And I follow his account because I like fish tanks. So I watch him building fish tanks and I learn from it. And I'm like, oh, cool. So the next fish tank I build, I will apply the learnings and, you know, so far and thus forth. And I consume this as regular content for years, right? I subscribe to the channel and I consume it in regular periods for 20, 30 minutes at a time, which is a great length to consume or absorb new learnings in that hobby. A short video couldn't do that for me, right? It wouldn't be complete. It would be a snippet of something of such a build. And then I wouldn't find the other snippets and it would become annoying and I'd be like, oh God, why, right? And it would actually deter me from following it. And probably by the time I would want to follow, I forgot all about it. Let's be honest, because the noise around us, particularly on social media, is high. It's hard to keep our attention. And it's something that YouTube struggled with initially when they came up with the shorts format. They had long form and short form as separate entities on the platform, and it had a level of competition with it, which meant if you, as a long format creator, got shorts into the game, your audience would watch a short and then be like, what do you want to tell me with that? It doesn't serve any of the purpose why I follow you. It doesn't provide me much information. It has no educational value. It might be entertaining, but most likely not because it used to create long form content, and it deters me. If somebody looking for short video content would have stumbled upon the long form, it appears horribly boring. Because if you're in a mood, and I've empirically tested this with a few thousand people now, if you're in a mood to consume short video content for 10 minutes or more, and then I throw a long piece content in, that's like a Grammy, Oscar award-winning piece of content, you'll hate it. Why? Because it breaks your watching cycle. Your psyche has been biased, if you want, into consuming highly engaging, highly short, high frequency content, right? So that didn't work. And YouTube really struggled with this for the first year and a half. Now they found a way to say, wait a minute, the short content is its own animal. As in, you can just create stupid stuff like you do on TikTok, you know, highly engaging, funny stuff, blah blah, pushing them there, and it's cool. You can just be a short video creator, and that's cool. Or you can have a long format account on the platform and use short video as your feeder content to let your current audience and a potential new audience know what you're doing and what they're about to watch if they click on more, if they click on the long formats that you have on the platform. And that gives both Instagram and YouTube a tremendous potential that we ignore if we only look at the short video aspect and say, essentially, if we're honest, at this point in time, they have literally the same short video capabilities. Give or take a feature in platform A versus platform B or C, but in 4 weeks' time, they will have copied that feature too, no matter who had it first, and they will essentially be the same. They have music, they have cutting and editing tools, they have filters, they have effects, and so far and so forth, right? But that in the background gives both YouTube and Reels at least a very, very interesting aspect that we should think about if you look at this from an organizational perspective. Now, something I want to share with you, and I just read we do a little break in a few minutes. Something I want to share with you is now a new research that came to the table with regards to these 3 platforms, and it kind of supports a thesis that I've just been putting up to you guys. I move a bit faster through this because I share the link to the research, so you can go and have a look and read through this. I think it's fascinating and interesting if you're interested in the topic and the differences between platform behavior, and maybe it serves you to define your new strategy in the future a bit better. 3 aspects I pulled from the survey that I want to mention here briefly. Number 1, engagement. We said before, TikTok is leading the engagement race. However, over time, of course, and you see here the timeline 2021 to 2023, we see a slight fall of engagement on the TikTok and Reels platform. Why is that? There's actually 2 reasons, at least in my opinion. A, we become a bit saturated with short video. Consumption times have been stagnating, which also means that the engagement we show can't increase anymore. That would make any sense. Plus, engagement is now getting split between 3 players, Reels, TikTok, and Shorts. So one is not capturing all of the engagement that we have to give. It's going to different platforms, and YouTube has greatly upped its engagement game by creators understanding now how to engage the audience with questions and are constantly pinning to the comment section to create new content out of this, which is what TikTok originally did. Nevertheless, TikTok is still leading the engagement rate, and I think that's due to its algorithm still having a slight edge over the others to provide us content that we would just find interesting before we turn the app off or switch to another piece of entertainment. If you look at average watch rates, we find something that is actually very interesting. Reels scores the highest watch rate. Something I wouldn't have seen coming, because we would expect that, of course, TikTok, garners watch rates, but that's a fallacy. My best performing clip that I've ever had on TikTok was 13 seconds in length. And we get to the why in the operational section later on, but you have to create and craft content that's interesting for short, and that's not easy. But if you create content in a platform that has a follower notion, as Instagram has, you're not as picky about the content because you follow the creator, probably because you like him or her, and then you consume the content. You don't have to have this hook aspect all of the time, unless it's about getting new audiences to your account. So that's quite interesting. On average, Instagram Reel exceeds watch rates compared to TikTok and Shorts. Again, something that might be interesting depending on the purpose that we have to use the platform, to decide a bit on which platform do we focus first for this objective, and then recycle maybe content on the other platforms, and we could switch depending on the current objective we pursue. And the last one, that's just like a creator's thing, average posting frequency. I think that gives us about the cadence of the platform to stay alive and stay afloat, stay sort of like within the attention rim of users consuming content. And of course, there shouldn't be any surprise. TikTok, of course, is usually the platform that shows us that posting videos or posting high frequency content is needed to keep your account in front of, or your content in front of many, many eyes due to how the algorithm works and due to the user's behavior on the platform, right? I just finished this section here and then we can move into the break, of course.
Okay.
Here's the QR code to the Social Insider study I've just mentioned. You can either take a quick snapshot or if my slides will be shared, you of course have then more time to do so. And if that isn't enough for you, there's more data that I can suggest to look at, which might be also valuable for the next section when we get into a bit more the strategic aspect of planning the use of these platforms for your organization. This is a link or a QR code linking to Data Reportal, which is a platform having sort of like great snippet of data in different countries and platforms. With that being
Thank you so
said,
much, Dr. Markus. Let us give a second to all the participants here today to maybe scan the QR code for more data.
sure.
And so now
This one
we'll be
first, right?
going. Yes. So let us go for a quick 5 minutes break. I will see everyone again at 2:56 p.m., which is in 5 minutes.
All right.
Catch everyone later.
See you in a bit.
Okay, I think we are back from the break. I hope everyone has got stretched their legs out and prepared for our next session, which Dr. Marcus is going to continue. Over to you, Dr. Marcus, to continue.
Thank you. So let me go again into sharing. And turn this title off. All right. I've just shared both links in the comments. So if you want to copy out the links instead of the QR codes, it's literally the same thing, and we can move on. One thing I hinted to in the very beginning when I said initially there was TikTok, but then we've moved on into a world of 3 platforms, and when we talk about short video today, in my opinion at least, we can't neglect Reels, we can't neglect Shorts, and we can't neglect TikTok as one of the 3 players. And as we've just learned, although in a fairly high pace, I guess, depending on the objectives we have, by creating a followership and curating that followership, or by converting into other platforms or formats, or by creating high engagement levels, we might have to choose one platform as the lead for a certain objectives that we have in the organization. For example, employer branding. That it could very well be TikTok. If you want to create longer form followings, it might be Reels as the lead. If we can create content catering into the Instagram world, and of course, if you want to have more educational, more leading to longer format contents of whatever we create, maybe in an educational setting, then maybe YouTube could be that platform that leads the race. But there's more players to the game than we usually talk about. And these players are in China. And therefore, I hope that many of you at least now say, wow, I'd never thought about this. And again, if you have thought about this, just act as if for me, so I'm very happy. There's many short video platforms in China that we have never heard about in the world outside of China, to some extent, including myself, but I deal with it. That's kind of like my job. And these platforms, I'll show you here, right? The leading platform is Douyin, the sister or brother application of TikTok, as we mentioned before, both belonging to the ByteDance organization, both using the same algorithm, but Douyin being ahead in terms of development and rollout of features to TikTok. And I said before, and I say it again, if you have a chance, make sure you get a Douyin account, call it whatever, it doesn't have to be a company because it doesn't matter, and learn what happens on Douyin to prepare yourself for the next evolution of feature sets or behavioral component on short video. But then we have a couple of other applications that we probably never heard of, starting from Kaiju, Weezy, and so far and so forth. There's a myriad of applications, and as you can see, the top 3 would be the ones, if you come to China, that should be the ones you'll be eyeing at. But there's at least one more application the world does not talk about, but it's one of these super apps that we have on planet Earth. And of course, that is WeChat. As you know, if you're in China, WeChat is the application that Elon Musk wants to create with X. So good luck to him. That governs your life. I use WeChat for communication. I use WeChat to pay literally everything in my life. I get my salary through a WeChat app. I communicate with my students on WeChat, which doesn't always have to be the best thing, but it's the app that governs my life in China, right? It's like its own operating system on my phone to be fully independent. And I literally, since I am in China, my usage of apps on my iPhone has gone down tremendously because I do everything in WeChat. Now, WeChat has not been an entertainment app per se until somewhere in 2020, a bit earlier than Reels and Instagram, when they said, wait a minute, we have young users, Gen Z, moving into the world of short video, and we're kind of missing that part, right? So they have created something they call WeChat channels. It doesn't sound very sexy, neither for us nor in China, to be honest. But WeChat channels has become one of the growing and almost leading short video consumption channels in China. Why? Because we have out of 1.4 billion Chinese people, you have 1.3 billion on WeChat. So literally everybody, right? We can ignore the 100 million that we're missing. Why? Because they probably wouldn't have the disposable income to buy the products or services you're trying to market anyhow. And that gives, similarly to YouTube and Instagram, WeChat channels tremendous potential to be the primary real estate on your phone that you pay attention to, and the app that converts most users. And they've done so greatly to convert WeChat channels into sort of like this live streaming, telesales, high cadence, short video format, if you want, that now steps up its competition against Douyin and holds its place as the dominant app in China. I think that's, again, something we can learn, that we talk about short video. In the Western world, we'll have the three dominant players, but it may well happen that WeChat other players start to export, or try at least to export, depending on how the climate will change. And there might be a new player on the horizon. And I think I would almost bet on this. X. We can't. I still say Twitter. So X is most likely, in my opinion, going to move in a similar direction. So we would expect, I think, to see a stronger focus on media sharing on X that has more structure than it has today. And that will probably include short video. Why? Because it's the sexy format of today. It's the format that people like to use, and therefore it will bring eyes, and therefore advertising money to the platform that they're currently missing, right? So with that being said, I think we can conclude the first section. And I try to summarize some of the lessons learned. And one is, don't let the platform or media format surprise you, right? We've seen that with TikTok. If a platform has a billion users as a marketer, we shouldn't be, oh, I've never heard of it. We should hear about this, and we should think, what does it mean for our organization? And I show you a framework that might just do that. Second learning, we shouldn't follow the hype. Just because something emerges doesn't have to mean we have to do it. It means we should see it, we should understand it, and we should think about what it means for us or for the organization, not blindly running after it. WeChat has so many features. yeah, WeChat is the super app. But it's also scary as a super app because it can restrict your daily life to a great extent, and it can control your daily life in an extent that I never thought was possible. To give you a very quick example on this, I went to Indonesia not long ago, and I wanted to order something on WeChat from Walmart to be delivered to my apartment. And because they detected I was outside of China, I could not use any payments. I could not organize my daily my things in China. I was restricted from all of this because I was abroad, and yeah, that makes it a bit hard. But nevertheless, that's a different story. Number three, learn the media, not the platform. Right? As you've seen with the growth of Reels and Shorts, in addition to TikTok, it's not about learning a single platform. It's about understanding a new media format and seeing where you can leverage that learning. And that might be multi-platform, right? So I think focus on the media and not the platform is an essential learning taken forward. And therefore, of course, as the last one, be open to a multi-platform strategy, which is recognizing you don't have infinite resources, but B, that you can leverage the multi-platform strategy to achieve your objectives in the best possible way, not following the hype, not following the platform, but making sure you achieve your organizational objectives. Of course, assuming we look at this from an organizational point of view. So that being said, we would have concluded the first part, and I try to move on to the second one. And a short question to you guys. What do you think about this? I read this almost every day, and therefore I call it the anonymous TikTok expert on LinkedIn. which, as you know, can be anybody who calls him or herself expert, because that's what he can do on social media. And there's a quote that I find quite often. You think B2B doesn't work on TikTok? It does. 600,000 views for my client. The trick: don't create content for your customers, create content for the masses. That's actually a post I found one-on-one 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to copy the post because my job is not to point fingers at people, but I thought I'd copy the text from the post and bring it into this webinar as a quote that strikes me quite a bit and raises some questions. So my question to you would be, what do you think about this? About a quote of that sort? Any opinions on this? Mm-hmm. Something's coming in. Keep it coming. I just start bubbling for the sake of time, that we make sure we get to the end. But please share your opinion on this. One caveat that I think we see with that is sort of like the drive of the platform that I've mentioned before. Impressions and engagement is what we greatly achieve on the TikTok platform. And that can mean we get to new user bases that we have not reached yet, of course. But it should be user bases that are of value to organization. And if you, for example, pursue an employer branding goal, they could be to say, well, we've thus far reached a population of a certain size, but now we could expand that population, right? That's a great thing to do, but it should be a meaningful population to a certain extent. If you try to do branding and create aspirational value in the marketplace, you could change the lever a bit and say, well, we also want to reach people that don't buy our product necessarily, but the reach that we create and the aspirational branding that we build, that gives our brand traction in the market. So for those who buy it, it gives them actually a value of image. What are people looking at them and saying, oh, wow, look, they bought a Rolls Royce or Rolex, greatly advertised, quite often in mass media. And we know there's quite a negative effect in terms of ROI of mass media advertising for niche brands, but this supports the notion of aspirational value. If you look for sales of certain products, particularly in the B2B market, it probably doesn't make much sense, in my opinion, to go after a mass approach to get impressions, because it leads us down the wrong rabbit hole. We should still remember why we are in the place we are in, why we spend organizational resources to pursue our organizational goals. And they should be measurable to a certain extent. Outside, of course, of any field that we call experimentation, it should lead us to getting in a way to our target group and not just to, of course, anybody, right? So I would actually say, unless we are LinkedIn TikTok expert or AI expert in that moment, our objective is not to generate wild levels of impressions. Our objective is to use the organizational resources we have in an effective and efficient manner to pursue and reach the goals, right? And we'll do just that right now. And we start by looking at environment and impact. That's a canvas I'm using quite a bit. I've translated this for this session to make sure, hopefully, it makes sense, to help us deal with the environment and to do so in the marketing or Marcomm world. And what does that mean? I only go through the top notions, okay? Because for the rest, we won't have time. But that's enough for this seminar today. We have to look at change drivers in the marketplace. What is changing? And for this, we can, apply stuff like a PESTLE framework, for example, where we identify what has changed in the political landscape. Data privacy comes up. Ooh, what do we do? That might change the way we interact with the marketplace. We might see it as a technological change. And we're actually facing a technological change in the near future, which is when we probably move away from maybe from our smartphones, to more wearable devices that capture the essence of smartphone technology to interact with the environment. The dream that many organizations currently pursue, including Apple and Facebook. We might see a new media format come up, right? And it captures attention by people spending more and more time on it, by the user base growing. So these are change drivers next to, of course, a myriad of others that we find in tools like Pastel and so far and so forth. Then we have to think about, what do these changes mean to us, to our organization? What would be different in the future than now? Maybe attention is drifting away. Maybe expectations are rising up. Consumers don't want to wait anymore for contact with a salesperson. They want to have immediate confirmation or an immediate answer on certain topics. Most social media platforms, in fact, all of them, are available 24/7. Yet we as an organization, we're only available 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 8 to 10 or whatever your hours are. Right? Maybe that changes how we need to engage with the marketplace, and it creates a new perspective for us to say, oh, depending on what happens in the environment, that should trigger at least a discussion within the management function of the organization to say, well, wait a minute, there's something happening. It has an impact that we foresee to be X, Y, and Z in a certain space or room that we believe will have an impact on our business model. It could make our life much, much better. There's opportunities coming up. We could engage with consumers in a new way. We could reach target groups in a new way. We could actually create new value for consumers, right? Capture the opportunity that gets presented. But it could also mean, there's risks on the horizon. How do we mitigate these risks? How do we prepare for it? How do we make sure we're not being surprised if attention is moving away, if purchasing behavior is changing on a media or technology level, and we haven't prepared for it, right? And once we've done this part, this analysis part, which are the first 5 boxes of this chart, we can then move into a strategic discussion in the organization and say, what does this mean for our organization? And I think if you look at successful organizations that have done digital transformation, we see sort of like capturing the essence of such a discussion by a transformational aspect not being a gimmick of us having a Snapchat channel or a TikTok channel because it's fun, but by us creating a strategy that has pursuable, measurable goals attached to this aspect of change that happens around us. And then, of course, we need to look at which processes do we need, which capabilities do we need to make sure are in place, which even for short video are quite a few, and then which resources do we need to support this. And to show you an example of what that could mean translated into short video, here's an organization that some of you might know, some not. It's called Hilti. It's an organization in the construction equipment space. So they do like electric drills and other equipment that's largely used in the construction industry, so mainly professional equipment. It's a well-known organization in the construction business. And I have looked for the Hilti organization, in that case on TikTok, so that's a search I did on the TikTok platform. It's not current, so I haven't repeated this in the last couple of months because I can't access the platform even with the VPN. So please keep this in mind if it has changed to now. And I found, of course, if I look for Hilti as a generic search, I find millions and millions of views. I find millions, no, sorry, not millions, but hundreds of accounts that have something to do with Hilti and that do reviews of Hilti equipment. And I found many, many videos, actually thousands of videos, where craftsmen show the Hilti equipment and what they do with it. And some of the videos are very funny. Some of them are a tiny bit dangerous, where I think if a product manager would see that, he or she might feel a bit iffy and say, please do not use your Hilti to curl your hair, because it could just, lead to a very bad accident. But some of these craftsmen explain the equipment probably better than any salesman could do. But one thing I did not find, and that one thing is the Hilti organization. They essentially don't capture any of the discussion that happens. at least in the time frame I was looking at this. Again, maybe it has changed. So if you have a chance, please check this out. Maybe it has changed now. And they let the communication happen without them. They don't capture the communication. They don't capture the attention. They don't use it for their benefit, and they're essentially being left out. And that has a tremendous impact because it can show any competitor where to attack. You can open them the door to engage with that community of craftsmen that seem to be readily available on the at least TikTok platform. And I would assume you would equally find them on Shorts and on Instagram. A tremendous opportunity if the organization would do the homework, identify the change driver of short video, sorry, and think about what this means. The opportunity would be understand how our users use the product and they show it. It's perfect, right? Engage in the discussion on a product management level, not sales, product management. Help them with the issues, explain how to better use it, warn of safety measures, and that sort of stuff. And then capture the discussion on your channel and use it to build reach and audience, right? Tremendous opportunity, but it can only happen if you recognize it in the first place, right? If you would have done so, we of course can move on and say, okay, if we have that, what do we do then? And that brings me back to the statement we had on the very beginning of that B2B, getting hundreds of millions of views or hundreds of thousands of views by not focusing on a target group. And as somebody who deals with marketing performance management quite a bit in ROI, that's always iffy for me because I'll say we should use something like a strategic framework in social media. There's very different ones. I like something of this sort, therefore I show it. Where we say, what are the actual objectives that we pursue? If you don't have objectives, we shouldn't spend money, should we? Right? And we're also spending money if our employees goof around on social media because we pay them. They could do other things. So we should have an objective, I believe, that we pursue, right? In general, I'm excluding experimentation that must happen to learn and understand new technology, right? That's excluded from the discussion. And some of the objectives could, of course, be strategic, like turnover or profitability, increase the people we sell to, or maybe the amount we sell, or increase the efficiency of how we sell, right? Become more profitable. As an idea, it could be an organizational goal, of course. How do we pursue this? What are some operational goals? Brand awareness, creating leads, sales, we said before, employer branding, right? And then defining who are the target groups that we want to reach that goal with, or these objectives with. And it's usually easily linked, and as simple as it sounds, but codifying that information provides us almost like a framework to say, oh yeah, that's what I do, of course. So I can't just tell jokes on the platform to get views. That doesn't help me pursue my goal, right? I got to do something else. Unless I have an account where I tell great jokes, and then I convert some of the audience to another site or venue where I pursue my objectives with. Maybe that's doable, right? So I need to identify the target groups. And I said before, it can be many. It's not just customers. It can, of course, be customers and prospects. That's what our CFO probably would like the most. But it can also be employees and future applicants, as we said before, with employer branding aspects, or other stakeholders that we want to keep in a loop and show that we're a great corporate citizen, right? It could be many, many things. And there I put in a note that we shouldn't forget that even if you're Marcomm or maybe social media, depending on how the organization is structured, marketing does actually start with research and analysis and not something else, right? And only if I have the objective in the target group, we can then move into what the platform should be that we apply. The target defines the platform and not the platform the target. That is very, very important. I see many organizations going the opposite way. They're like, oh, TikTok, we've got to do short video. Then they run after it and they actually forget the entire reason why they are in business in the first place. And if we have these three components, it becomes very easy. Then we define the requirements we need. what is the content we need to sustain that? What is the content plan that we need over time to be able to do this, right? Which media and creatives do we apply and thus for and so forth, right? And the performance measures we of course define then going back in a feedback loop to each of the levels to make sure we're on track in the short run, in the mid and in the long run, so we can adjust the necessary lever to keep our organization on track, still have fun, and pursue our goals. And that being said, it's important when we define a framework or a strategy like this that we remain realistic. That's something I found with many organizations that are not realistic by pursuing their goals. And something to show you how to remain realistic is this picture here. It's a screenshot or a capture of Red Bull accounts on TikTok. By now they've grown a bit. I just didn't take a new screenshot because it would need another one. But we are not Red Bull, unless you're super lucky and we work for such an organization. Most likely, you work in an organization that doesn't have the resources to create 50 different accounts only on TikTok. And if you did so, you cannot fill them with content, right? So Red Bull, as an example here, has country accounts. And these country accounts are highly tailored to language, to culture, to behavior, right? But they have the organization, essentially it's a media organization to sustain this very effort, right? That's something I show all of my clients to say, please be realistic of who you are. It doesn't mean you're worse than Red Bull or an Apple or any of these large organizations I look up to, but please be realistic in the start of any of your engagements, because otherwise what you do is you create utter frustration for you and you create horribly managed accounts for the user base that might follow you, right? So please don't do this. Start with one account and do that one great. And if that works, grow it further, right? Start with a niche and grow it further. You collect experience and things will start moving for you. The second thing we need to mention here, if you get into short video and we think about what are the goals we can pursue, we could talk about this now for hours, but I also keep it short to make sure we stay more or less in the timeline. We have to look at the channels, at the funnel that we have. And I used a very, very simplistic marketing funnel, as you know, maybe from your marketing classes in college, awareness, interest, preference, purchase, sort of like the very simplest form of a funnel where you move through. But then we could look at purchasing behavior, product complexity, pricing we face, situations we face, and think about how do they translate into the funnel and which part of the funnel can be mirrored on short video based on the attention, on the behavior we're seeing on short video platforms, right? And that gives us a very generic sort of like a rule of thumb that actually holds true with the current research I'm doing. If you look at impulse purchase products, by the way, there's a change in what impulse is due to short video. Short video is enlarging the notion of impulse purchasing to higher priced items that were unthinkable before, but that's a new trend I'm leaving away. So our general impulse purchases would be, sweets and cheapish clothing and that sort of stuff. You can show from top of funnel to bottom of funnel and convert in short video. Bam, right? Quickness sells the product, and that's great. It gives you sort of like a mass marketing scalable approach where short video comes in very handy. However, if you move towards specialty or B2B, you will see that at a certain point there's more depth required than you can provide in short video, and that depth is probably not going to help in such a condensed format. So you need channel conversion, format conversion, maybe even requires face-to-face or other forms of interacting with the marketplace. So let's be very, very let's be very realistic about what you can achieve at this point in time using only short video, right? So the isolated view of short video in the mix, depending on purchase situation, product categories, and our behavior. And keep an eye out for the change of impulse purchasing. I'm just working with an automotive group that is shortly going live here in China, and we're going to sell cars in live streaming, and they will be sold within the live streaming event that will take 1.5 hours. Unthinkable, to me at least, in the Western world to do this. Unthinkable, right? But it has changed, or that the notion of content discovery and discovery behavior is changing the way consumers behave in certain aspects of consumer behavior, at least with regards to purchasing situations. But that's not the main essence here. What I want to do now is move into some caveats that we need to be aware of. And that's just using a little critical perspective. So even if we've done the homework, we identified there's a new play on the horizon, a new technology that might change the name of the game. We want to apply it, and we move into using the technology. We have to be aware of a couple of things. And the first one is the platform always wins. We are in a time frame of platform economies, which means whatever we do, whatever you use, any technology you have in your hand, is literally related to, most likely at least, to a global platform. And that global platform sets the rules of the interaction possibilities or abilities you have, whether that be Meta, whether that's ByteDance and TikTok, whether that's Apple or Google, right? And here's a very simple graph to hopefully get the point across. If a new player comes up, the red box is the platform, we jump on it, we're super enthusiastic because we get organic views, right? Reaching potential customers or just a mass of people. And that's great. Why is it great? Because the platform needs to give you organic views, so the hype builds up and people run into the platform. Right? It uses a very simple economic principle to catch our attention and to make our investment worthwhile, because the main currency on social is attention. And it gives you exactly that. It gives you attention for free. And TikTok did so tremendously in 2020. So people were running to it. But after a while, most platforms will say, how do we make money, right? And the easiest solution to that question will be the moment you have reached a certain scale of users, you monetize the platform through advertising. So the investment you've put in as an organization, if you want to reach the user base you have, or future user bases, the platform will at some point say, show me your money. And here are our advertising options. Here are our boosted post options, which means you create a post in your account, but you boost it to reach a certain audience. Otherwise, you get suppressed in getting views, in getting attention. Right? That's something we have to plan for, because that can create a big issue if you create something like a platform dependency, particularly top of funnel, and we have not planned for the fact that this might cost us money in the future to sustain that attention, particularly in low involvement categories where users need a brand stimulus to enhance purchasing, right? And that's very well researched in low impulse purchases. This is why we still see Coke advertising, right? Everybody on planet Earth knows Coke, Coca-Cola. So in theory, they wouldn't need advertising, would they? Well, yes, they do need advertising, because otherwise we might miss or lack the impulse at a certain point of time. They drop in mental availability, and we might just grab something else, right? The stimulus is not there. So that's quite important, actually, to keep in mind as an organization. And the worst thing that, of course, could happen is that the platform says at some point, wait a minute, advertising's great, but advertising is actually a flawed business model over time. It has a ceiling. It doesn't make much sense. If you look at the advertising poop funnel, check out advertising poop funnel and Hoffman. Great reading. Of course, a bit negative towards the advertising world, but I think it's great reading in such an aspect. We'll find what happens if a platform all of a sudden says, I don't want your advertising money. I want your entire business. And that's a horrible thing that could happen to us, but it does happen. Why? Look at Amazon. Amazon is now one of the biggest players in the battery business. From one day to the other, they found that, hey, people do buy batteries. You know, the AAA, AA batteries you put in toys of kids and, I don't know, remote controls and that sort of stuff. They know the interest, they know the demand, they know the supply, they know the price level, they know the entire market of batteries. At some point, Amazon jumped into the battery game and literally took over the global battery market to a large extent. And that's not something people talk much about, but platforms can be a very dangerous avenue if we make ourselves platform dependent. So a caveat and a warning, don't become dependent upon the platforms you engage with inevitably through the technology we're using, both private and in organizations. Be aware of what that means and find a way to capture your followership or your customer relationship in the media that you also own to avoid becoming margin dependent upon the platform if they change the rule of the game. I'm not going further in this chart, but I wanted to bring it in to see how, or to show you how the platform domination increases. And you could also look at this from how much advertising revenue, for example, dominate certain platforms. You see the big five players, they're now at 60-70% ad revenue, ad spend domination. That's absolutely insane, and that tells you nothing else but there's dominating players in the marketplace, and they control the bottleneck. If you don't want to go through that bottleneck anymore, you can't afford to go through that bottleneck, you are gone from the market. And that's a very, very dangerous thing, of course, to happen. The second caveat I think we have to move through are vanity metrics. We spoke about vanity metrics before. We could have 600,000 views, 1 million views. We're viral. Great stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's superb if you go viral. I love it. Everybody does it. Everybody wants to be liked and everyone wants to be successful. But we don't want to create vanity metric focus in an organization. And what are vanity metrics? I try to capture the essence here. The statistics that look absolutely spectacular. We have 1 million views. I mean, come on, that's great. But unfortunately, it's 1 million views of people that have no interest in our brand or product, but they found our clip very funny. Okay. If that happens once, it's great. If it happens every now and then, superb. But they can't be our focus. And I'll show you an example of what I believe is the best example of vanity metrics on planet Earth, at least to my knowledge. You might know a better one, but let me show you one at least. It's the hand wash challenge. And please see if you find something that catches your attention in the screenshot where you say, "Woohoo, that is odd. Can this be?" Right. So the hand wash challenge that happened in the early pandemic was a campaign on TikTok in India. Main focus was India. It got then extended to 8 Asian countries for a certain period of time. And it's a campaign that I have not yet met somebody who's ever seen it live, even being in Asia. But that there could just be a very, very bad sampling on my behalf. But have you found something that you think is a bit odd? If not, I'll show you, at least for the sake of time. The campaign is approaching 130 billion views. That is the greatest campaign on planet Earth, at least to my knowledge. But the big question is, how can a campaign have close to 130 billion views if there's only 8 billion people on the planet? And out of these 8 billion people, as of now, is 1.1 billion on that platform. And at the time of the campaign, it was only 500 million people. I mean, the math doesn't add up. There would be, close to 300 views per person. It just doesn't make any sense. But imagine you're the marketer and you have a plaque on your wall saying, "I'm the only person on planet Earth that ever got 130 billion views." You should be marketer of the year. But that's, again, to me, a great example of what I would call vanity metrics. Probably not the pursuit of this campaign, but this number, should raise more than one eyebrow. Unfortunately, I only have two, so I can't raise any more of them. And that kind of concludes the second part, planning for success, where I led you through two frameworks that I believe, at least in the time we have, can help us to recognize there's a change in the marketplace that we need to capture an organization to exploit an opportunity or avoid a risk. And there's a framework we can use to roughly plan on what we want to do. I am very sure, at least for if there's students here of the university hosting, you have seen this in more depth and more detail than I could ever express, and probably with many, many other tools. But for everybody else listening, try to be strategic and try to be structured in how you approach these things. That will help you to avoid spending money that you can't recoup easily or later. And now we move into the last part that is not going to take very long. Here I share mostly my learnings of managing my own account, which I did by myself with nothing but my phone. I didn't even buy a light or a microphone. And it's also a summary of the questions I'm always getting from organizations. So it's probably questions that you would have as well. So that shouldn't take too long, but probably very easy to grasp and capture. So let's talk about operations. What do we need to be successful in our short video or in the management of our short video strategy? The number one question I'm getting is, which equipment do we need? And to this, I usually answer, start with your phone. Why? You can always run off and buy the greatest camera and buy professional lighting and microphones and mixing tables and computers and everything else. If you have no idea of how it works in the first place, no equipment will make you any better. And you've probably seen people that want to start riding a bike. They go to a bike shop and they buy the best bike available. They buy all the equipment, the jersey, the helmet and stuff, but they never get on the bike. The best bike's not going to help you. Start riding a bicycle, and once you manage to do that, get a better one. Once you're faster, get a better one, and so far and so forth. So my advice to literally every organization is start with a phone, create an account that's not your company account, and test the platform. Shoot the video and upload the video. Then you learn, oh, I need to create captions. I need to create a heading. Maybe I need to use hashtags. What should a hashtag be for my organization where we capture the attention, like the hand wash challenge, which we can also measure, right? Start simple and expand from there. I think currently, as of now, an investment of maybe $1,000, maybe $1,500, if you need to buy everything, should be enough to get a phone, maybe a microphone if you want to have a lot of language use, and you're set to go for the time being, right? And once you know what you're doing, once you have a content plan, once you're up and running, you can start to invest in lights and all the other stuff and become more professional about what you do. But you've done the groundwork and you have some learning. Another question I'm getting all of the time, should we work with an agency or not? That's a question I can hardly answer, but I suggest in the beginning, don't work with an agency. Nothing against agencies, but you need to have some in-house learning. You need to have some in-house capabilities, and you need to have at least an understanding of what you want to have. If you experiment a bit yourself, you get an idea of how things work and what you want to achieve. And then you have a better understanding of the media or the platform, and B, you're in a much better position to create a brief to actually attract an agency that can reasonably help you. It's going to save you, I think, a lot of money. Should I work with influencers? KOLs in China, influencers abroad. It's the holy grail of short video, right? If you don't do this, you're out. Sure, you can work with influencers if you know why you do it and for what you do it. Influencers can help you to get to new audiences, right? Influencers can help you to promote your channel. There's many, many positive effects of influencers. I would assume you know most of them. TikTok has an influencer marketplace, which is great, by the way. It creates a certain level of transparency. You see prices. You can have a look into demographics. Great stuff. Facebook and YouTube have the same, or building the same, so you can follow up upon it. But there's also dangers that are attached to influencers. And I want to show you one danger that has been very well researched. I just wrote about it in a paper. And for this, let's do a very quick experiment. It's going to take 5 seconds of our time. I show you a picture for 5 seconds, and you tell me what you see in the picture. So what have you seen? It was about 5 seconds. Usually what's coming now, and wait for the comments, or I talk while comments come in. We see Ronaldo, Messi, Ronaldo and Messi, CR7, woo, or whatever scream he does, I can't really do it. They play chess and they do this. It's actually a campaign sponsored by Louis Vuitton. If you go back, the checkerboard thingy they play chess on is a Louis Vuitton case. This is one of the most expensive pieces of celebrity advertising that has happened last year at the World Cup, right? Was last year, the Soccer World Cup. And it's a great photo, don't get me wrong, it's a great stunt, it's great time at the beginning of the World Cup. The only problem is, I did research in that, and that was great in China. Most people did not see it was by Louis Vuitton. Most people saw Ronaldo and Messi, and they had a great debate on who's the better player. So if they play chess, who would win? Some people say Messi, some people say Ronaldo. I did an eye tracking study here in China, and funnily enough, most people gave very little attention to any brand asset of Louis Vuitton. And that is an issue because Louis Vuitton paid for the picture, they paid for the party, they paid these guys. And I assume Ronaldo is more expensive than I am, which is a problem for me, but great for Ronaldo and of course for Messi, right? So be careful when you work with influencers that you don't get into what we call the vampire effect. And that just means an influencer absorbing the attention and the paying brand not getting the attention they're actually paying for. That is a problem that can actually happen and has been, as I said, been well researched. And something you can do to counteract this a bit at least is be very careful by the influencer you're selecting, okay? Make sure when you find an influencer that reaches the demographic you want to get to, that you set up a contract that defines the organizational objectives that you want to reach and the part that the influencer plays in reaching these objectives. That's definitely something I would do. I would also define behavior in that contract. For example, at disclosure, if it's important to you, things like this. And lastly, define with the influencer, not necessarily the content, because this will go wrong. Give them their creative ability or their creative space, but define with them the high attention moment that your brand must be getting. I give you a quick example. Blah, 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 brand, right? So they do a video and then, where the attention happens, sort of like the explosion, the fireworks. This is where your brand needs to be shown with brand assets. And if you don't believe me, there's a great piece of research on this by 3 researchers who have, or partially, or some of them work at MIT. And they came up with a fairly great study with an M-score analysis on what the high attention moment does for the sales aspect you get from short video. They analyzed 40,000 videos, videos for that purpose. It's a great piece. I highly recommend to read it and just keep the essence of in the moment when you think from a storyline perspective, you get the attention. This is where your brand needs to come to play and not the influencer. We're almost done. I make the 2 minutes, okay, for the Q&A. And the next point that I'm constantly getting asked is, I have a great idea. I could start with short video. I have such a cool joke. Okay, tell me the joke. Right? Tell me the joke. So somebody tells me the joke, and I'm like, I'm laughing. It's hilarious. It's the greatest joke on planet Earth. I'm like, okay, that joke you use today. What do you do tomorrow? And then they look at me like, I don't know yet. I say, okay, this is your problem. You're not telling a joke. You have just a joke, right? You need to create a content plan to support your objective, and you need to be able to tell me now how you will sustain your objective with content for 6 to 12 months, assuming the posting cadence or posting frequency that the media you look at will require. And for TikTok, you need to be looking at, I mean, if you're realistic, probably 15 to 20 posts a month. Otherwise, you're just gone. You're not there, right? That's a bit dependent, of course, on post quality. If you create the best, sort of like stage clips ever, it can be less. That's just like an average number. So create a content plan that can support you in a narrative going forward. And creating a content plan will mean learn the narrative from the perspective of the users that will watch your content, right? Don't create content for yourself. Create content for the users. How do they understand it? How do they perceive it? Give you a quick example. If you create a VR application, with a VR headset, and you let people drive a race car, the earliest mistake almost everybody made, they gave people a VR headset and they drove a car, but they were standing while driving a car. Question to you guys. How many of you are standing when you drive a car? The answer is nobody. You will all sit. This is the translation of contextual narrative from a user's perspective to make sure the media or the application of the media makes sense. The same, of course, applies to short video. We get to the last point, then I'm done. Understand the format. Short video is not long form video, okay? You create a different storyboard or sorry, I just lost the word. You create a different loop or spike if you want, right? You have to grab people's attention in short video at the beginning of the video, unlike in the long form content where you build up the drama structure towards the end and then you have your big explosion. In short video, it's pretty much the exact opposite, right? And I'll show you this in a graph. The graph is in German, but please ignore the writing. I'll explain what it means. On the top hand side, so the top line, this is a long form content, as I just explained. You have an introduction, you raise up, you have your big fireworks, and then you come to the end, to the conclusion, right? So it's like the average storyboard line that you find, the drama piece line in long form content. And that works great in a movie, that works great in a theater play, that works great in a show you watch on TV. Why? Because it has teasing content that makes you interested and go and watch the movie. You watch a trailer on TV and then you go to the movies to see the latest Barbie, for example, right? In short video, you do not have teaser content. Your content is the only teaser that you have. So you have to start, and now we go to the bottom hand of the graph with that U-shaped curve, right? You have to start with high attention, with a hook to grab people's attention. Then you can, of course, move a bit, go a bit down in your attention level and move back up towards the end. Why is it important to move up towards the end? To keep people's attention again, to reactivate them, and to ideally get them to engage with your content by commenting, liking, forwarding. Why? Because if they show this, not only is it engagement, it will increase your view time, right? They view it one more time, two more times, maybe why they write a comment. And when that happens, the algorithm will love it and they push your video further up. So it will get more views and more attention, which means we have to understand how these things work. And as my last slide to this, don't hate the player, hate the game, play it smart. To some extent, if you pursue your objectives, understand how the algorithm works. use a young person because they're deep in it usually, to apply trends, to apply music, to apply pushed formats. Usually if a platform introduces a new format, they push that format to monetize the format. Be smart. Apply that format in the background silent. Nobody will ever see it, but it's enough for the algorithm to push your content. I can easily show you how I created with my account at least a 15-20% uplift by doing this, not changing my content per se. All right. By saying that, we've moved through the 3 areas I wanted to cover. I sped up a tiny bit here now towards the end, and we have time for Q&A.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Markus. So we have a few questions that I've collected from our participants earlier. So the first question is from Malin. How can Chinese clients in Malaysia effectively use TikTok to navigate cultural differences and establish their brand in the local market?
Well, number one, they would have to, of course, use they would have to understand first of all the local culture. I think that would require research, and research requires to let your own culture at home. Your culture is great, but it's not about your understanding anymore. It's not about what you like. It's now your job to understand how clients in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in France, in Germany, in Russia, wherever you want to be, what they think, how they behave, what they like, what they engage with, what they consume, why they don't consume something else. I think that's the absolute first step. I see many organizations from China, when they apply Western social media, they kind of like replicate the Chinese stereotype. I'll give you a quick example on this, and hopefully it gets my point across. When Alibaba started to advertise in Europe, they created a huge campaign. And I come from Switzerland, and all the advertising that hit me in Switzerland was Alibaba trying to sell me a watch for $1. That is an insult to a Swiss person. You know, a Swiss watch is something you cherish. You get it from generation to generation. That stuff is expensive. It's like we talk about $20, $30, $40, $50,000, right? And now Alibaba is trying to sell me a watch for $1. It's a horror. They create a cultural horror for me. And they emphasize their stereotype, right? They have not done the homework. They have money, which means they've done advertising, but they haven't done the homework. So understand culture, do your research. After you've done that, you plan your strategy and you get your content ready to go to the consumer. And I think then it'll work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Markus. So
Sure.
the second question is from Kidaya. She's asking, what is the reasonable frequency to post content on TikTok, especially for an organization?
Good question. I kind of like gave this rule of thumb, and as we know, a rule of thumb means very little because it can be extended to either side, right? And my rule of thumb was 15 to 20 pieces, which kind of translates to once a workday. Now, there's a quality aspect to it, and that quality aspect would determine if you stick to that rule of thumb, right? And that would mean if you cannot produce quality content 15 or 20 times a month, please do not post it because your view times will go down and this will harm your account. If you can only produce whatever quality would mean in your area, a quality content 10 times a month, then do this 10 times good and try to see if you find a way to be more efficient in your content production to have a higher frequency, because frequency will play into algorithm and that will play into getting engagement and re-engagement. So yeah, quality and your ability to produce content will probably determine what you have, but my rule of thumb from everything I've seen and from the research I do would be around 15 to 20 pieces plus minus.
Right, and the third question here is from Musliha. She says, apart from understanding your customers' needs, what else should we consider in creating contents? Does hashtags help to get our contents to be FYP, or it simply makes it easier to be found on the platform?
Very, very good question. We've kind of like gone through it in the last part, but probably questions came in before already, right? When I said don't hate the player, hate the game, there's every now and then a little trick you can use to push your content. Careful. We don't pursue vanity metrics, okay? It's not in an organization, it's not getting the million views. This is awesome if we get million relevant views. But we use, of course, tricks that the platform allows us to use. It's almost like attention arbitrage for a short moment in time. Now, hashtags, in all I've done, have never, ever, ever resulted in any up spike if nothing else changed. In all of the uploads I've done, a hashtag has never, ever, ever resulted in a spike. What a hashtag does for me is I throw it in, because I can very easily measure the impressions I have, my total impressions, by only going on the hashtag, and then I'll see them, right? And since it's my invented hashtag, it'll probably only be used by myself, and that's great. So that's one thing. The other thing is platforms move a bit more into search, because now we have such a large content database that search becomes relevant, that you might look for something, right? And you go into not just a discovery mode where you scroll until your thumb hurts, but you might be in a mode where you say, oh, that was interesting. Oh, so I can wear these yoga pants and my back end looks better. And now you search for that, right? By the way, I bought them. They were viral last year. I bought them. I put them on. They don't work. I didn't look better with them on. So I tried that stuff. My students were not impressed, but I still did it. Anyhow, so apart from hashtags, as I said, you will have music, and you will have formats, and you will have no, I just forgot it. What else? Music formats and some cultural aspects. So culture will be very localized to the most part, but music, for example, gets usually pushed when a music format is being used as part of a greater campaign. So if I used a music format that was part of a paid campaign, then usually my content got an uplift, careful, by me using the music and muting it to 100% or to 0%, whatever you want to look at. So nobody ever heard the music, but it pushed my content up, right? These are probably the little flaws in the platforms that we need to identify. And that's why I said before, get a young person, because you don't have the time to do this. You never have the time to do this, right? Get a young person that uses social media almost like extensively. They will know. And they will know these tricks. Make sure they stay on track to pursue your objectives, right? Otherwise, you need to the clap on the back. And then, if they pursue the objectives, they can sprinkle the tricks on it to boost your performance.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Markus. I think that was a very insightful sharing, and I hope all our participants here today have learned a lot from you. And I think they're very excited to actually look into your TikTok account as well and be a follower. So before we end and wrap up our session, I would just like to thank everyone here for being, here since morning and joining us for this paid session as well. So before we end our workshop, I would like to inform all the participants about the e-certificate. We will be putting up the QR scan shortly on screen where you can scan it, and you will be directed into a Google form where you can fill in all your details with your full name, and you will be getting your e-certificate by email later on. Yes, so I will be ending this session shortly. Before that, of course, we have to end it with a photo session with everyone. So can everyone please turn on their camera for one last time? And yes. And Dr. Markus, if you can stop sharing your slide.
Sure. Let me get out of there. Done. By the way, while people turn on their cameras and whatnot, amazing organization of the event. I attend many events, but this is by far one of the best organized ones. It's an absolute pleasure to work with you, your colleagues, amazing moderation, and I assume an amazingly great school in the background of everything you do. So thanks very much for having me, for the team that's organized this, and shout out to the school in Malaysia and to your students that have the luck to study at your institution.
Yes. So I hope everyone has turned on their camera. Okay, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, all right. Should we do a heart too? One last one. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Dr. Markus, it has been a very great journey that you have brought us through today in this webinar. And I hope everyone have learned a lot. Please do not leave the chat yet. Shortly, we'll be sharing the QR code for you to scan. And yes, thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you again next year. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you again. Bye-bye. And you have a wonderful day.
You too.